Ta-da! I feel like the ceremonial removal of this giant turd. We need like some music. All right, our C10 project has been drug out of the snowbank. It's back here in our shop in Lincoln, warm and cozy, probably for the first time in its life. And the first thing we did was pull all the sheet metal off of it. We pulled the cab off. There's a lot of rust repair to be done. But now we have this bare chassis here. Josh is ready to help us rip apart lots, 50 some years worth of rusty bolts, and it's not gonna be fun.
Yeah, that'll be right. It'd be good to strip it down. Now that the body's separated, we can kind of get this project rolling with the chassis, strip out all the front and rear suspension, all the little tabs and fuel lines and brake lines and all that stuff that we're going to be replacing anyways, and get this sandblasted looking like new, and then start bolting on some of the fun stuff for suspension.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's lots of cool things that we've got planned for this chassis. We're going to lower it, modernize the suspension, make it something that we can drive anywhere. So, I mean, the first thing we're going to do is take pictures of everything, the way that it all goes together. I mean, it seems simple standing here looking at it. It seems like the simplest thing in the world, but it might not seem that way 6 months from now when we're putting it back together. Wheels rusted to the...
Oh, this might be a longer day than we thought.
Okay, when I said it was about to come off, I was clearly mistaken. There we go. I mean, in spite of this whole truck being kind of gnarly, this chassis is really in pretty good shape. You know, there's no rust in any bad places, and it's straight and not cracked, and you know, it doesn't look like it's ever been hit anywhere.
Yeah, it's a pretty straight frame. I mean, just when I walked around it earlier, obviously, you know, just looking to see if there's been a bunch of torch or, you know, weird stick welded anything, and other than that cross member, which we can replace.
The story goes that this truck was like an Air Force truck that they used at the air base somewhere, and it was a tow truck. So I'm guessing that that had something to do with like the boom apparatus for the tow truck or something.
Whenever you're working around springs, you just have to be thinking more than just, oh, I'm trying to get this nut loose, or I'm trying to get this bolt loose. You have to think, is this spring loaded? Is it unloaded? Does it want to move? Does it have all that energy stored in it right now? We've got the jack underneath the rear axle holding it. The spring isn't under much tension at all. It's an interesting pitch. Ooh, these bolts. Let's see, this is a 68?
Yeah. Yep, those haven't been turned in 55 years.
30. I was doing up to 2000. That's how I always do my math. I go, okay, so 32 years gets you to 2000.
54 years.
Yeah.
Of bolts
and then
haven't
another
been turned.
22. Yep. Okay.
You just cut off the wheel.
Yeah, it's just tough to get all the way in there.
I mean, you can try it if you want.
Yeah, I'll try to bang it on.
Is it coming?
Mm-hmm. You got it loose for me. Bing.
That was way less dramatic than it usually is.
Try to keep pressure up against to separate the spindle from the ball joint, which is seized together. You can beat and bang on stuff all the time, but if you don't have that constant tension trying to push them apart, it's really not going to break loose. So, ding dong, the witch is dead.
Huh. Yeah, it's just like a stud with no, there isn't like a groove for a clip or anything.
Is it a little expanded? No.
No.
Not even.
You just put the shock on there and say a little prayer and hope that it stays on. It's a cool thing about working on old cars. You learn something every time you do it.
Turn this brake line into a broke line.
Wah, wah. I mean, any progress is exciting. Even if you're just making a mess, it's still progress. Kevin?
Hey, Joe.
Josh couldn't get that panhard bar off last week. I got you a tool. We
Let's
need
see.
your muscles.
Let's see if we can handle it.
You ready for the cutoff wheel, Hercules?
She's frozen.
Are you done?
It has been removed.
Bunch through the bottom, and then these through the frame rail.
These three here and
And those, yeah, there's 4 of them up here. Get it?
First one, good. Condition of this, it really isn't that bad. It's pretty straight. It's not rusted through real bad like you see in the Midwest. Overall, it's really good condition and a great builder chassis. My side's out, Joe. What's taking so long over there?
Yeah. There you go.
There we go. She's
Yeah.
out.
At least nothing crawled out. But I cut this exhaust hanger off, and then this, we need to drill out these rivets, get this piece out. I think this was like a mid-mount cross member. I think this thing must have had a 6-cylinder in it.
So we'll grind the upper rivets off of those and pop them, then we can flip the frame and
Yep.
hit it from the bottom.
You got it? You get to do the next one. Why should I have all the fun?
Man, I haven't seen the frame since it's been blown apart and back from the sandblaster. This thing looks really good.
It cleaned up pretty good. I mean, the sooner we can get rid of this thing, the better. Everybody that walks in the shop is like, what in the heck is going on there?
Yeah.
So we'll do the G-Comp rear suspension, and that will replace that cross member. I think the first thing we should do here while we got it sitting here upside down is do the C-notches and at least get those roughed in, and then we can move on to the rear suspension.
That sounds like a perfect plan to me. Cool. It's off. Is that the money shot you were looking for, Andy? Yeah. I'm like, that's enough. I'm gonna hit it now. So I think even though the instructions say that we should cut, this out of here now for the notches, since we're gonna grind these rivets and hammer them out with a punch, maybe let's do that first before we take the strength out of the frame.
I think that's really smart. We'll do it a little bit out of order according to the instructions, but yeah, I think before we cut that chunk out, if we're gonna be hammering on it at all, we should do that first.
Huh. We might need to get an air hammer, Joe. Beautiful.
So this rivet goes through 3 layers of steel, so there's plenty of room for rust to basically just seize the thing in. So we punched out all of these rivets except for these front 2. What we're gonna do is just drill through the center of it. Now we're doing some damage. See it moving?
Yep. Man, see, it happens to everybody. This rivet's getting the best of us, but you know, so don't feel bad when this happens to you, because this kind of thing happens to all of us. But when you have stuff like this that's been together for 50 years, this is part of the fun.
There it goes.
But hey, that's a good reason that we did not cut
Yeah.
this first, because we had to pound on this thing to get
Yeah.
all that out of there. So one thing that I really think is worth spending some time doing is to deburr all of these edges, because when you're in here working on this stuff, especially if you're laying on the back and the truck's all put together, you can cut your hands. Just make sure all this stuff is deburred. It's worth a minute or 2 to do that.
Not looking too bad. I'm just gonna take the holes out and see if
Yeah.
we can get it to hold up. You wanna do it?
I don't care. Oh yeah.
All right, we're gonna get these bolts started, the holes that were already there, and then with it kind of snugged up, we'll drill these holes on the side, these 4 remaining holes for the additional bolt. All right, Jeff is here. We are going to get to work on our G-Comp rear suspension. It's going to allow us to put coilovers on the rear. It's going to be a great deal. Most importantly to me at this point, it's going to allow us to get rid of the wonky crossmember. It comes with a new fabricated crossmember. It's going to be a thing of beauty. So that's the first thing we got to do. We got to grind out some more rivets, these truck arm pivots and the crossmember itself, get those out of the way, get fresh metal in there, and we can move on with the rear suspension.
Bingo. It's just that easy, right?
Look out. I swear I like you and I'm not trying to kill you. Hey Jeff.
Yo.
When we're done with these, we still have to do the crossmember.
I know. But first we get to flip the frame over, flip the frame over, right?
Flip the flame over.
Flip
yeah.
the frame, easy for you to say. Let's see who burns up their disc first. Ta-da!
I feel like the ceremonial removal of this giant turd. We need like some music or something. That was the only bad part of this whole frame. You know, it's a great original short box frame, but that crossmember had a rough life. So now we're down to only the parts that are good. We get to put more good stuff in now. Good riddance. New crossmember we're just test fitting it right now. Nasty old crossmember is out. There's a couple pieces to this, so we got to kind of get oriented here, make sure all of our holes line up, and then we can start kind of bolting it together and seeing how it all works.
Tight.
It's kind of one of those deals where it just looks so much better than it did. And
Yeah.
you know, it's fun when you get to start bolting in the trick new stuff and not working with crusty old original junk.
Done with the demolition and starting the reassembly.
You have to stop and like be excited from time to time. Remind yourself why you're doing it.
It's motivating to see it go back together and putting in this rear suspension kit. I've never messed with it before, and it seems to just all go right back into old rivet holes and stuff like that. So nice sandblasted frame here to work on. So we're done taking things apart and starting to put things together. It's pretty motivating.
All right, now that we've got our cross member installed, we've got our panhard bar bracket installed, the next step in our mock-up of this G-Comp rear suspension is to bolt the truck arms up to these new pivot brackets that we've installed.
Middle, right? Might as well for the first try.
Sure, let's do the middle. Why not?
Thing moves a lot.
It really does. You got quite a bit of
There's
adjustment.
a lot of adjustment there.
All right, we're installing the housing now. We happen to be using one of our Speedway Motors 9-inch housings that's pre-made for a 67 to 72 Chevy truck.
I'll pass through since they're over there.
What a nice guy.
It was more about who was on the way on my side.
So the next step for us, we're gonna take this all apart, take it over to the fab table. We're gonna fully weld this bracket on, and we're gonna cut this old panhard bar bracket off because we're not gonna use that. And then everything gets blown apart for paint. It's really exciting because we get to see this all come together then. All right, our chassis is back from the paint booth, and you might wonder why we chose to paint it rather than powder coat it. You know, this is meant to be kind of a budget driver, so rather than spending thousands of dollars on powder coat for all this frame and suspension stuff, we just painted it and we used hardened urethane, and so it's gonna be plenty durable and it's gonna kind of keep the budget under control. So we're ready to start with this rear suspension, putting this all back together, and it's really kind of an exciting time when you're bolting your shiny painted stuff together for the last time, so we're ready to get started. So this is our third member. This is our housing and everything. And this is a 350 gear 31 spline clutch style posi.
This is our own casting that we use, a nodular iron casting. It's got our logos in it, but it's more than just a copy of like a Ford nodular iron. We actually went in and reinforced some pieces and spots for us. And also we get them made with the proper clearances already so that we can run real high ratio, you know, 650 to 1 gear ratios for some of the circle track stuff that we set up. And then, yeah, just the traditional Ford style, track lock style posi, but this one's got a little bit more spring pressure to it.
Okay.
So that it's definitely both wheels, you know, most of the time.
And I figure 350 gear and this thing will be just about right. You know, if we start out with a 3-speed transmission, it won't be out of sight going down the highway, but then if we drop in a, you know, overdrive or a 6-speed or something, we'll have plenty of latitude here with this 350 gear. First time we put these on is always tough because the studs aren't quite where they're supposed to be. There it goes. Yeah.
Happy.
Wow, that was way easier than it should have been.
Well, we both immediately took our hands off to grab washers and nuts. So we made it past the point of where it could have went wrong. the first thing to figure out is which axle goes in which side, obviously. And short one goes typically on
Left
the
side.
driver's side, and that's because your ring gear runs on the left side of the third member. So the ring gear's right in this, and you can see from the bulge on the back of the axle and everything.
And I mean, again, there's multiple right ways of doing this, but holding your straight edge against that surface and then measuring out to the flat is a good way to get there.
Get in there.
You know, some folks safety wire these, but with the lock nut and the Loctite, it's going to be, and just a regular street-driven car, we're pretty content with these the way they are. We did a whole tech talk on this install of this well-on caliper bracket and the assembly of this whole kit, and there's a link to that in the description. We ready to move on? Hang this on the chassis?
Yeah.
Can we put this blanket down so we don't scratch them up?
This isn't how I build vehicles. I don't know how to do this, Joe. Making everything look nice.
I'm trying. It isn't always like this in my garage at home.
I really like how these have this eccentric adjustment for squaring up the chassis and
Yeah.
changing the wheelbase a little bit if you have to.
Super cool.
Makes things easy. Okay, we'll just snug those for now. And rear end going in.
All right.
That's the plan, right?
it's something like that, yeah.
Okay.
It'll be heavy. Down. You got room? There.
He is heavy.
Whose idea was it to put that together on the bench?
It was a good idea earlier, now it's not.
All right, can you hold on to it?
Right in there, looks pretty close.
There we go. All right, where's that hammer? The dead blow hammer. Thank you. Okay, you want to do your side?
Sure. Jack, there you go. Close.
All right.
Got one nut on for safety.
So do I. Yep.
Okay.
Oop. Yep. All right. All right, should we tighten them up? Wrench will take it the rest of the way.
Okay. I got that snug with the nylock on there, so it's not going to be coming off. The nylock's all the way onto the thread. But I'll wait to tighten it all the way down, because whenever you have any suspension link with a bushing in the middle, rubber bushing, you don't want to pinch it down from both sides and then set the truck down or car down, because then it might grab the two sides of the bushing and twist as it comes down.
This was supposed to be the easy part. It's gonna be just fine. No, I think I got it. There we go. I'll wait to tighten mine down until you get yours in there.
Okay. Get it getting squared up, but then the bushing bites and turns it as it goes in.
Done. Oh, it's cool.
All the clearance you could ever want for wheels and tires too, by tucking the coilovers to the inside of the frame instead of the outside of the frame.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that'll work great.
Yeah, I mean, you got a ton of room to come in with a big wheel. Man, that's a lot better than it did when it rolled in here.
Yeah. And that should sit pretty, I'm not gonna say aggressively low,
It's gonna
but
sit
it'll
nice.
be down there where it can actually handle and not be a lumber wagon.
Well, we're gonna close it out here, and next time we're gonna put the front suspension on it. We got some really trick stuff to get it lowered and kind of upgrade from the stock junk. And then we're gonna have it on the ground. It'll be a rolling chassis. So join us next time, you're not gonna wanna miss it.